WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
NightWatchman.
Yeah, we're going to be classy tonight, man.
I see. I see.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, man. So welcome to another Soul Lounge
Not
Primetime.
just another Soul Lounge.
Oh, you telling me that this one is special. That's what you're saying.
This is the Jazzmobile edition of Soul Lounge Primetime.
Oh, that's what we've been pumping out here.
It's going down. It's going down.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that must mean that we're going to have some illustrious guests, huh?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, not just the fly-by.
Not just the fly-by-night ones we usually have. No. Special. These are special fly-by-night guests.
There you go. Gotcha. So NightWatchman, I'll let you do some honors here. So
we have in the building right now Mr. Nat Adderley Jr. And the iconic, lovely, and incomparable Linda Walton.
Hold it. I think I know her.
I think you do too.
Can she actually dance?
I've been told. But we're flashing back there.
Okay, yes we are.
Wait, hold on. DJ Solavatin is coming in. He's bringing the disco ball.
Oh, that's right.
That's
right.
So.
Dance party. So Linda may actually hang around a little bit.
Maybe.
Huh?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, welcome y'all too.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
So every now and then, NightWatchman, he likes to quiz me and whatnot. So he said, tell me a little bit about Nat Adderley Jr. What's his background? Who did he work for?
No. Specifically, I said, did you read the bio?
Yes, he did say that.
We get information fed to us. We're busy, and we've been doing this long enough. We know we're going to have a great conversation with whoever comes in. Mm-hmm. But we try to be a little prepared. Try to be a little professional here. So I said, did you read the bio? Tell me, what was the thing that struck out to you of his bio? Oh, he's a son of Nat Adderley Sr. So I go.
He called me out.
I go.
He called me out.
So you could not have figured that out without the bio.
That's
right.
Are you related?
I was like,
I see.
You didn't read it. But the reason I called him up, okay, so I'll share something. Curtis and I, we like to think we have a breadth of knowledge about all types of music and, jazz, hip-hop, R&B. Mm-hmm. But when I looked at Nat's bio, I was like, how did I not know this? That
the Luther stuff,
that you were Luther's music director. You were pretty much day one with Luther.
Day before that.
Day
before
prior.
that.
B,
Day negative.
BC before
That's right.
BC before contract.
That's right. There you go.
You know, and really rode shotgun the whole way here.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's
Not
true.
to mention a co-writer, collaborator, arranger. So you really, listen, we all got your music. We all got it.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
They say some of y'all had kids to the.
Oh yes. Well, I'll tell you a funny.
Some of y'all were.
A funny
Conceived.
story. I was talking to a friend of mine who is caretaking for a mom who unfortunately has Alzheimer's and dementia, and as many people know, music is a very, very powerful and important thing for people who have dementia. And so the thing that she plays all the time to keep mom happy is Luther.
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
So soothing, huh? Really?
Yes, absolutely. Well, come on, Luther's.
Yeah.
Luther soothes, like you said, soothe you into the next generation.
I got to tell you, wow, we're starting like this, but I got to tell you that call that I was just on the just on the phone before we started, 30 seconds.
Yes.
That was to Luther's niece.
Oh wow.
Savita Williams. We just did a concert, two shows. How do I say it? It's called the Vandross. Is the organization that puts it on. We did it last year around his birthday, which was Friday, I think, or today, or yesterday, or something. And we did it last year, and we did it this past weekend, this past Saturday night at the Sugar Bar.
Oh wow.
Very
wow.
successful. Sold
I could
out.
only imagine that.
Oh, we went through, and we went back to what I'm saying for the first time. The music that we made before, never too much.
Incredible.
We started out this show with some of that. So it was just a really successful and crazy, wonderful event that we're going to keep on doing. And I'm announcing it now, so y'all need to not miss the next one.
Yes,
Vandross.
Right.
Wow.
So tell us about when you first met Luther.
I first met Luther at the Apollo Theater. I was in high school. He was in high school. I mean, he went to Taft. I was at Music and Art, right up the block, right next door to here, right here.
I know it
was in
well.
this building
I know
across
it well,
the street.
yes.
Yeah, I just showed my wife. That was my homeroom window right up there.
Before the merging of performing arts and music and art.
That's right.
Right.
Then
Exactly.
they moved downtown. That's right. But when I was in music, I may have joined this group. It's called Listen My Brother, a group of 10 or 12 singers and a rhythm section.
Wow.
I always described the group as like the Voices of East Harlem. They were more popular. I think they were more well known at the time. But we had Luther and Fonzie Thornton and Robin. We had and Robin Clark. We had some singers in the show and all kind of stuff. It's a big story. So anyway, I met Luther there in the basement there, my first time joining that group.
Nice.
And we just got to be big friends, hanging out and everything. He went off to college, and I was still in the group. He did a year in college, came back, and rejoined the group, and I was still in the group. But then I went off to college. But then the next thing I knew, he was calling me from I was in New Haven, Connecticut, and he's calling me. He said, "Will you get on the train and come meet me in Philadelphia? To I'm going to do this record." I'm like, "Yeah, let me check the train schedule." And so we started 2 records before. Never Too Much.
Oh, my God.
The second album we did down there, same thing. We went down to Philly. He called me. I was still in New Haven. That record, we had second time around on it, which we did re-record later on. And but otherwise, I guess not a lot of people heard about those 2 records. But we just, like I said, we just went back through them in the before, and wow.
So you were at Yale, and you were coming,
I was at Yale,
and you were coming back and forth, still doing the music at the same time, huh?
I really was, man. We really getting back. Well, I was with Ashford and Simpson.
Wow.
At the time, and so I was going. My freshman year, I was missing the weekends. I was missing the parties on the weekends because I was going to meet Nick and Valerie somewhere.
Nice.
To do a show.
I'm sure you had bragging rights when you came back, right?
Yeah. And then So then, actually, they called me to go on tour one final time, and I just couldn't do it. I said, "There's no way." The tour was too big. I would have had to not return.
Oh,
I was trying to return. I had taken some time off, and I was trying to return for my senior year.
Gotcha.
And they said, "Let's go on the road." I said, "Oh my gosh, I know I'll never come back." I'd already taken some time off.
Right.
Having a ball in New York, gigging, and everything. So when they told me that, I said, "There's no way I'll ever come back if I don't knock this out now." I did 3 years.
Gotcha.
I don't want to be here, but I'm here now, and I gotta finish. I gotta not waste. If I'd been only there for 2 years, I would have dropped out.
Yeah.
Incredible.
You know.
Incredible.
And Nick was telling me,
Yeah.
but people go to college to get a degree in order to have a gig like I'm calling you for right now. I said, "Yeah, I know. I can't believe I'm saying no." But anyway, but everything worked out
They
eventually.
did.
Yeah.
They did. Major talent.
Well, I think I'm going to actually go pick something up. But Bob, Night Watchman,
Yes.
continue.
Absolutely. So, I want to hear a little bit about life growing up in the Adderley family.
Okay. Yeah, that was that's all. That's the question. That's
Right.
it?
Well,
That's
just,
go from there. That's
a little slice of what that. First of all, where did you grow up?
Teaneck.
Okay.
Teaneck, New Jersey. And I mean, Dad was on the road a lot. He was always back. Eventually. Gosh, I don't know where to start. It was a great, Teaneck was the hot town. It was the
sure.
First place to integrate the schools. So, entering third grade, I got bused along with all of us in the black section. I guess
So you were there for the founding of Teaneck Records and all that whole thing? Yeah?
I think they were there before me, but they were too. My second house in Teaneck, the Osleys were around the corner. I knew them well.
Wow.
Tanya Osley was a class ahead. Riondo, they called Dodo. He was a couple classes behind. And
Wow.
Teaneck Records, Teaneck and Inglewood. They were you can't even start. I don't want to even start trying to name the jazz musicians and the pop. Because we did live across the street from Chuck Jackson.
Yes.
And hello.
Robin Bell Stevens
is in the house.
In the building.
Good to see you. All right.
My sister over there.
Well, interesting. That's right. And your sister now also a music area too, known with Buffalo. And I'm thinking to myself, you were hanging out with Rick or something? I should
Actually,
know.
I'm a little bit younger. He was in my brother's class. Yeah, and there was a local band. They had, I think it was called Sabat and the Cause, with Rick James was the lead, and several of the Buffalo local musicians. They did fairly well, but Rick had a different trajectory, and they were on the road. Several of them played with him while he was on the road. But yeah, that's. I'm not going to say that's the only noted musician in Buffalo, but that's someone that
Lake Erie in the house. That's
Lake
right.
Erie in the house. Yeah.
The funkiest dude.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
But
That's
we did put out some of the best DJs on the planet, from Frankie Crocker to Gary Berg, Jerry Bledsoe. So
These are all Buffalo natives?
Buffalonians.
Woo!
Buffalonians.
Go
Well,
ahead.
I don't know if they were originally from Buffalo, but they were Buffalo radio personalities.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Wow.
So we always had some good music to listen to. Yeah.
So Miss Walton, now your background, dance, I understand.
Well, everyone thinks that, and I say this. I might have been a dancer in another life, and most definitely in the next life.
Okay.
I've always loved dance, but dance is just something that I happen to love and gravitate. I guess my two disciplines, I would say music and dance are the two ones. I love all disciplines, but I've always been interested in dance, enamored with dance, but that was just not my vocation. Love to dance, but did not pursue it. When we were kids, we took dance class and that sort of thing, but I didn't pursue it. But speaking of dancing, Curtis has been my dance partner at some of the dance parties in the parks with DJ Storm and Norman.
Sunday sermon. No.
And it's probably the only guy that I can really dance with. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But my background is, I don't take up too much time. I started out studying interior design of all things. Didn't have a vocation for it, just had a love for an empty space. And failed 3 of my major classes in my last semester, was devastated.
Ooh.
But I said, okay, let me think about this. Mom says, nobody's a quitter. Go back to summer school, finish and get your degree. It's like, nah, I'm done. Changed majors, and I went into something called production management.
Okay.
It's production engineering management. And what it was just the study and the science of garment production. Go
Really?
figure. But now, so because I'm the nuts and bolts type of person, all of the work that I've done subsequently was all about the nuts and bolts. So being in the arts, it's not about as an artist. It's really about the nuts and bolts, what goes on behind, what happens, what are the details behind a presentation or a production. So those, although it seemed a very strange trajectory with a few years in the garment industry working in production, didn't work. But then I started working for a presenting organization in Brooklyn called 651 Arts back in 1993, and that was the start of my arts administration work.
Wow.
Yeah. And I always say my work has always been about being in service to artists. That's what it boils down to. How can I facilitate if an artist has an ideal, how can I best facilitate or help make him or her realize that particular idea? So that's how my world came about, and which led me to. I will tell the story about Robin and Jazzmobile, and I guess we go back. As a matter of fact, I met her at 651. She was president of 100 Black women. We were doing a gala for Betty Carter's Jazz Ahead program, which was housed at 651 at the time. And we met, we connected, and she said, someday we're going to work together. Now, fast forward how many years from 1993 to 2008 before when I actually started working with her. We would see each other. She said, we're going to work together. We're going to work together. And sure enough, here we are in 2019.
And thanks to that project she referenced, I got to meet Billy D.
That's right. They were the co-chairs. That's right. That's right.
Lando Calrissian.
That's right.
That's why I got indebted to you. I'm just saying.
But you don't necessarily drink Colt 45.
No. Anyone who knows me knows I don't drink much.
So money-making Mount Vernon, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
So
That's
do
how
tell.
it's
Do
from.
tell.
So we're talking childhood. I guess I started producing when I was 11.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up in Mount Vernon, as you just said, and we used to do carnivals in the backyard. And they were fundraisers, of course. And then I started producing did a talent show in my aunt's backyard, and then my dad, of course, who played with Ellington, a lot of jazz musicians around. But by the time I was 11 and producing, I had gone to rehearsals and recording studios and sort of knew I liked the music a lot. Music was always in the house. I assumed everybody had a piano in their house. Because all my dad's friends were musicians when we were growing up, and they all had pianos in the house. So, but yeah, so I kind of decided that was something I wanted to do, but started out much like Linda in retailing. I started as a fashion coordinator and a buyer at Macy's professionally.
What?
Yeah. Was there for a while, moved to Boston, worked in Filene's, and then started working for the Elma Lewis School of Fine Arts. And some of your listeners might remember her. She is a phenomenal pioneering woman and built a school. And it was much like Harlem School of the Arts.
Okay.
But it was a larger facility, and I believe she probably had more students, and she had...
And where was this? This was in Massachusetts?
This was in Massachusetts. It was in Roxbury. In Roxbury,
okay.
Mass. And a guy by the name of Barry Gaither was in charge of the arts part of the programming that was there. And he now runs I think it's the African American Arts Museum in Boston or something like that. And it's moved from where it was. But yeah, that was an interesting time, working in that side of the arts. I was doing public relations and booking and talent management for all the professional groups within the school. Okay. So she had arts, visual arts, dance, theater, and of course music. And I also got to meet some interesting people when I was in Boston, and then came back to New York and started my own firm doing special events management. Fundraising and production, started doing the Jackie Robinson Foundation Afternoon of Jazz.
We love
I
that.
Still miss.
And we miss it.
Oh,
we do miss it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And I had wonderful mentors. I had in that area. I had George Wein and Joyce Wein. A woman by the name of Marion oh gosh, what was her last name? She was married, Marion Logan. She was married to Dr. Logan, who was the doctor to to Duke Ellington, sorry.
Wow.
To Duke Ellington. And there's a whole story about some work that he did in Harlem in the medical field with hospitals and so forth. And, but yeah, and Rachel Robinson just sort of took me under her wing. And after my first 3 months of working on it, she said, okay, you got it. And she walked away. And I said, okay, I got you, baby. I won't drop it, I promise. And I stayed there for a long time. And then
the only question you asked is, what does the baby eat?
Yeah, right, exactly, right? Exactly. But that's where being the daughter of a jazz musician was very helpful. Because if I called Joe Williams and said, hi, this is Aaron Bell's daughter, okay, then he took the call. So it made life a little bit easier. A little bit easier. Yeah, and then from there went to, I guess had my own business still, doing other clients. But in the jazz world, went to Jazz at Lincoln Center, Director of Marketing and Creative Services, and was then asked to come run Jazzmobile and say, what time is it? I'm on my way. So I stayed about a year, and then I said, okay, now I can go. So yes, and I've been ever since.
Gotcha.
So fast forward to April 2019. Yeah. So you've come a long way from the putting the shows on in the backyard, huh?
Absolutely.
So tell me about what you've got lined up for next Monday.
Well, we've got some wonderful things lined up, and anyone who knows me knows that I don't like to take credit for anybody else's work or idea. So in this case, I need to give credit to all the musicians, but particularly Winard Harper, who came to us maybe 7 or 8 years ago and said, Rob, you ought to reach out to the cats. I talk to them all the time. They want to give back to Jazzmobile. And, and the community, too, for that matter. But, our organization is not known for doing these huge, large galas. So we do these community fundraisers. And because the musicians, like the man to my left, the one from Nat Adderley Jr., we're able to provide an affordable ticket price, admission price, for all the great talent that they're going to see.
Which we can't say on the air, but you can tell us the website so people can go check it out.
Okay. I can take you to any website I want.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, I'll take you to eventbrite.com and search Jazzmobile.
Okay, that'll do.
That'll do, right?
Exactly. So the event is Monday the 29th.
So it's Monday the 29th, First Corinthians Baptist Church, which is located.
It's a great venue.
It is. It is. It used to be a theater, as you know, Curtis, and then they became a church under the the great leadership of Pastor Mike Walton, who has done phenomenal things in there, above and beyond just what he's doing with us. And so the doors are open at 5:30. Pre-show starts at 6:30. We're going to have some special things going on. We're going to be doing a special in memoriam tribute. We lost so many artists this year. I mean, so many, right? It seems it's just like every week you're getting another email, you're getting another phone call. There were several who are near and dear to our hearts, in no particular order, but certainly Nancy Wilson.
Oh, yes.
Right, exactly, who I had the good fortune of working with, but she was near and dear to the heart of the late, great Johnny Gary, who was with us forever. That was his girl. And then we lost, a great young trumpeter, 51, 52, Roy Hargrove, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then most recently, someone who, to become a Jazzmobile artist, you have to check at least one of the boxes. He checks all of them. He was a former teacher in a Saturday Jazz Workshop program. He was a performer. He was someone who always volunteered and stepped up no matter what it was we needed him to do. We just said, will you? And he said, yes. Then he says, I'm sorry, what did I agree to? He was that kind of a guy. He was that kind of a guy. So we recently lost him.
Lyle Atkins.
And then, right, exactly, the bass player, Lyle Atkinson, right, exactly.
Wow.
So so it's so going to do that, and then we're also very proud of our education programs. Everybody knows the performance stuff. They know Summerfest, which is coming back, but our Saturday Jazz Workshop program is phenomenal, and it has sort of morphed and changed over the years, and where it is now, as we are in sort of like phase one of what is going to be a 3-step phase. Is we have identified a school in the Bronx called the Celia Cruz Bronx High School of Music. And they have a wonderful music director who actually heard that we were looking for another way to approach that program. And the problem that they have with these public schools is that even those that do have a music program, they will have a music director who gets to teach all instruments. And that's a challenge, right? So
crazy.
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So she has been able to. She reached out to us, and so now we go in there on Saturdays and we do a masterclass sessions for the ensemble groups.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, on Saturdays you break them up: piano, bass, drums, reeds, guitar, voice, and I'm forgetting the others. Forgive me. So the students are in private and semi-private lessons.
Okay.
So that, I mean, the music director has even indicated after the first class, she said to us that her students, she could see a remarkable, not just a difference, but a remarkable difference, not only in their playing, but in the understanding, because they all come together at the very beginning, and we have our theory class.
Wow.
And that's led by a wonderful young man who's a licensed music instructor and a bassist, and used to play with Lyle by the name of Darnell J. Starks. So he's leading that for us. Yeah.
That's great.
All I know is that you guys aren't telling the truth. Okay, that you cannot have this many artists on one bill. You can't.
It's
okay,
incredible.
So explain how you were able to manage this.
Okay, well, let me say what I would like to do. I'd like to ask Nat, because see, Nat can tell you why all 37 of these jazz musicians, and I can talk
Say that number one more time.
37.
Okay.
It doesn't count Linda and I. We're going to do a duet.
That's
right. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, you hearing that?
All the stuff.
But Nat can really talk about, why the musicians think it's so important. So many of them show up.
Y'all threatened me.
Yeah, we did, because we called him like
You came
20
and dragged me,
times,
yeah.
sent an email and a text.
Okay,
that.
Nat,
True
I
that.
know them. You're right.
Yes.
If nothing else, we're persistent, right?
Exactly.
Oh,
Okay.
no, it doesn't take anything. They know, not from me.
Exactly.
It doesn't take me. I say
It
yes
really
before
does.
they finish. I say hello, yes.
Exactly. No, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, no,
Nice.
we love it. We all, we all have done the concerts in the park through the years, and out at in Marcus Garvey,
That's right,
over at the
Grant's Tomb.
Jackie
Grant's
Robinson
Tomb,
and
Jackie
Jackie
Robinson.
Robinson.
Right.
Oh,
What's
we
that one
love
at
it.
106th Street in the west side of Central
Oh,
Park?
that's Great Jazz and the Great Hill?
Yes.
Yeah, it's one in
yeah.
Central Park.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
all very unique.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, we just love it. I mean, it takes nothing. You see that list. We all want to support y'all because of what y'all are doing.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We love it.
And you know what? Jazzmobile does not get the props that it rightfully deserves, because I do remember, especially when you were in, let's say, doing it over at Grant's Tomb, how it would be, because remember now, Harlem Community Development Corporation, our whole thing is about tourism
Right.
driving revenue
Right.
to business. And I don't know, but can you say Perks got such a bump on
that's
Wednesdays?
Right. Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Absolutely.
I mean, incredible.
Absolutely.
So things like that particular concert and this concert, there needs to be, if it hasn't happened already, a little announcement to the restaurants in that area that, hey,
Yeah, well, actually, we do that, and we also encourage our folks who are coming in. If you're going to get there early, get a bite to eat. If not, we're going to
Nice.
end about 9:30, but some of those spots are open that late.
Exactly.
So definitely go in
Yes.
there. And one year we actually brought a group into Mist. We did like a dinner beforehand.
very nice.
Yeah, and it was great. The food was great. Everything was wonderful. The downside of it was, though, is that people just having a good time, laying back, enjoying the wine and the food and whatnot. And I said, we do have a concert that started about 5 minutes ago, and I'm the MC, so I think we gotta go, right? I think we gotta go, right? Exactly.
Oh, my Lord.
But I have to tell you, you talk about this, and again, I always consider myself very blessed to have grown up in the family that I grew up in. But when you go backstage, that's the spot to be. I'm telling you, everyone's greeting
Right,
folks,
right.
because they don't always all come together at one time to see each other like that.
Yeah.
So they're laughing, they're joking, they're telling stories out of school, and and it's but that's as exciting as the performances
Oh, I'm
themselves
so
that happen on
excited.
the stage.
There's some folks I
Yeah.
haven't seen since last year.
Right, exactly. It's
Wow.
like a
So excited to
homecoming,
go
right?
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Exactly.
So Nat, as let's say the son and the nephew of a jazz great, or jazz greats, tell me some of a story that you can share. Let's say G-rated,
Okay, that might be hard. Okay.
We can push it to PG. PG, sun's down, you know.
There you go.
Do tell.
That was okay.
That was a real question, right?
A story. I don't know why. I just go back. The first thing that pops into my mind was and we brought up Nancy. That record that they did, the Cannonball and Nancy.
Oh, right,
record.
exactly.
What a time that was!
Yes.
Wow.
In our
brilliant
lives.
work.
Yeah. And my favorite memories are waking up in the morning to smoke wafting through the house. I mean, I don't know how we smoke cigarettes like that. It's
Exactly.
horrible. How
It's
do you-
horrible.
really?
Yeah. It's
But I would
horrible.
wake up and smell the smoke and go downstairs. 7:30 in the morning, Nancy and Cannon and my mama and daddy and my auntie and my other auntie.
Wow.
They are still playing pinochle sitting there at the kitchen table. Been up all night.
Exactly.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Oh no, they were all like that. Good, just tight like that. It was a anytime. What other story? I don't have stories like that. What I told you, I mean, Dad was away a lot. So when he came home, it was time to leave that alone. I mean, he'd been just out for 8 months. Maybe.
Right.
So it wasn't really about coming on like people think. It
Yeah.
wasn't about him coming home and putting music on and us listening to music and hanging out as
Yes.
as music folks because I was into it too. I was taking classical lessons. At the time I had a pop band. By 7th grade I was playing in my first band locally. But he would come home and we played games, man. We loved Scrabble and Monopoly. And we watched the game shows on TV and fight about that and then start arguing. Start arguing about anything. My father just wanted to argue about anything. He would take the other side of the argument that he didn't agree with just to get involved with me in an argument. We loved it. That was with my mother just over there. Why are y'all doing this? We're fine. We're fine. This is great.
Yeah.
We love each other. This is great.
Exactly.
This is what we do.
Exactly.
So, but a lot of fun. Like you say, a bunch of folks coming through.
Nice.
But as a kid, I just missed it. I just missed it all. I didn't know what they were doing. I like to say, I think I started listening to music after the real heyday, and I didn't go back. And like I say, I was going a really different way. Although I had the jazz group in high school, which they helped us get a recording out. We were called Natural Essence.
Okay.
We were Earl McIntyre, who's still in town doing everything on trombone and arranging everything, and Francisco Centeno, if you remember him, the bass player, and some more. But anyway, we had a jazz group, and we made a record that was reasonably successful back then. So we hung out in the studio, Walter Booker's studio.
Oh wow.
On 87th Street.
Yep.
So all of that doesn't happen without, without me being Nat's son. We loved. I met everybody there. Onaje, who we're we're doing a program for him.
Yes.
I'm the
Yes,
piano
coming
player
up.
for that next week, by the way. So anybody know, we'll be at the Williamsburg Arts Center or something like that. We'll be in Williamsburg next Tuesday.
BK Brooklyn.
Doing all Onaje Allen Gumbs music, just to fundraise. He'll be there for a while, just to honor him. He's here.
Right.
I think
He's still
from
here.
Buffalo. We may have to research that, but he's from Buffalo.
He's from somewhere. I think you're right. Wow.
All right.
So,
Hey, own it.
right.
But it's kind of cold up there. That's why everybody left.
Who else I met there? I met Angie Bofield. Used to run through there. I mean, when I was in high
BX
school.
Bronx.
Well, like I say, I was in Teaneck and lied about my address to go to Music and Art. Oops, that's the first time I said that.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, what did you say? I didn't
Oh
hear.
my God! Don't tell me.
So in fact, I had a middle school person, Tanya Willoughby, who I know ended up going. Did you know Tanya?
Yeah.
Oh my
I know
Lord!
Tanya very well.
Why
And
is
if
the
she's
world
listening, hello,
too
that's-
small?
Yeah, really.
Tanya,
yeah.
if you're listening, hello.
Wow. Hey. Wow.
That is too there.
Close friend. We lived around the corner, very close. For years, I was on 102nd.
Steve
She
Harrison,
was 101st.
drum player, ended up on Saturday Night Live as one of the early drum players, but it was another music and art guy. But you know what? You may have me by a couple of years.
Don't remember him, but if I start naming who was there when I was there, I mean, my life, I don't know how to imagine what my life would have been like had I not gone to a high school of music and art and met all of those. For Buddy Williams is the drummer from Natural Essence, and he also went to music and art. And so I met all of those there. Ray Chu was a couple years behind.
No, Ray Chu.
Oh yeah, I was there with him. Marcus Miller was didn't get the.
I remember Marcus. Yes,
he came after. Oh, so you remember Marcus from there?
Yeah.
So you're saying you're 3 or 4 years younger than me? That's,
yes.
You just wanted to announce to the world. It was important to you to let everyone know. But,
Linda, did I just walk into that?
That's okay.
But having said that, I also want to know because Linda, you appear to be, I want to say, a talent for hire. Of course, you know. With the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, but also Jazzmobile. So how does that happen?
Well, anything.
Because
I
she's
always
good.
Said,
That's why.
You know what? One of the things is my life, even though I can never say I set forth a plan, everything has happened organically. I don't believe in any forced marriages. You know, either my rule of life has been, it's changed now, 80-20. Whatever I'm doing, I'd like it 80% of the time. 20% I can kind of live with and adjust to, but when it starts to shift, that's when I start to move.
Gotcha.
But anyway, so in that, or I say there's the agitation that propels you into your next blessing. Okay, so sometimes I get a little agitated, but I have to say, when I landed at 651, there was not a misstep along the way. I went there to Arts International, where I did a lot of work with international artists from United States and abroad, cultural exchange programs. And then I came to, I had an opportunity to come to the Harlem Arts Alliance. And that sort of started, no, that's not true. When Arts International, when I left Arts International, I was just not doing anything. I had a project with the Duke Foundation. They had their theater grantees over in Dublin, Ireland for a festival, so I coordinated that for them. So I'm languishing on my sofa watching morning television, trying to figure out what my next step was. I was taking interviews, which I did. Now I was going to Jersey for interviews just to practice, to continue talking. But then Harlem Stage called me. And this was before they became Harlem Stage. They were Aaron Davis Hall, which is the gatehouse right here at 135th and Convict, to work on a project that they were creating. They had commissioned 4 artists to open the space, and I hope I can remember all. Sekou Sundiata, Tanya Leon, Roger Genvier Smith, and I don't know why I keep forgetting the 4th artist.
Oh, my God.
But they commissioned them to create work for the opening of the space. So I managed the community engagement outreach and residency part of it. So, because the idea was that sometimes you don't know the artist, and in order to become familiar, you have to engage with them. So we would bring them into open rehearsals, dialogues, etc., with the artists. And over the course of this 2 years, they became very connected to the artists. So when they opened or premiered their pieces, they had a built-in audience. So that was sort of the beginning of my Harlem work. And then I got a call from Mr. Voza Rivers about coming over to...
Love you, Voza, if you're listening.
I love you too, Voza.
Hey, Voza.
Hey, Voza.
The Harlem Arts Alliance is their first executive director. And so that's where my work sort of in Harlem sort of propelled.
Nice.
And then Robin knocked on the door. And what I realized, too, is that I love programming. I'm an administrator, but I'm drawn to programming.
Okay.
So when Robin knocked on the door...
So you like working with talent.
I like working in service to artists. Sometimes,
Okay.
yes, I'll say it that way because, yes.
Got it.
But again, facilitating those things that make it possible. And so I would see Robin here and there on 125th Street, and we'd wave and say each other, and then she was like, finally, she just sort of pressed me up against the wall. And it was like, okay. She said, I got a wonderful opportunity for you. And it was like, I could not refuse. And I was their vice president of programming at Jazzmobile, which, again, that body of work, I can't tell you the opportunities that I had. And thank you, Robin, for your creativity and your brilliance. And the only thing that Robin and I are very much alike, so sometimes we have to stop each other. It's like, wouldn't it be great if we should. And we would just grow. And then all of a sudden, we have like 50 things on our plate. And we're looking at each other. It's like, you got this, right? It's like, not me. that's on your list. But nevertheless, it speaks to that passion that we have. And then it was just, obviously, an amazing institution in terms of its history. And I was going to Grant's Tomb back in the day, back in the 80s, before I kind of knew it was Jazzmobile per se.
Okay.
But I was there
Just a
going
Wednesday night
it was
in
just
the
a Wednesday
summer.
night in the
That's
summer.
right.
And then it was like,
where else would you be?
but then, over time you begin to realize, that's who is doing this.
Correct.
But again, knowing their history, knowing their purpose, knowing what Robin was trying to do with the organization. Because again, you're talking a 55-year history, but at the time, not 55 years, but certainly had been...
I think it was his 40th anniversary.
It was the 40th. That's right. It was his 45th.
Yeah.
It was the 45th anniversary.
When you came on, was the 45th? Okay.
Yep. So just knowing there's just having this ideal to sort of seed some change in Jazzmobile with its programming and making it a little bit more dynamic. And doing things outside of the Wednesday and Friday night concerts, so it was just spectacular. The Winterfest, the Vocal Fest. So all of these programs, all that to say that just my trajectory. And then when I decided to make some changes in my life, I decided that I just was going to become like a consultant. And so I did work again with Harlem Stage, continued to do with Jazzmobile, the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, Harlem Arts Alliance, the Apollo. So, and these projects just seem to come my way, and certainly always at the right time. Always at the right time.
Because they know your competency, they know what you do. So, absolutely.
Yeah, there's something to be said about familiarity.
Yeah.
It does not breed contempt.
No, but I would just also add to that about Linda, in addition to her having the strong skill sets that she has in the area of programming and production and marketing and art direction, I would also add all of that as well. But she is someone that you want to work with, right? Because you know that when she gets on your team, if you need her to be the lead, she got you. If you need her to just say, come on board, and this is what I'm doing, but I need you to support me in this, she got you. So I think that that's a unique skill that not everybody has. So take all that together. If I can, for example, she talked about us having projects and ideas, and I said, I'll give a perfect example, one of my favorite ones. Okay, so when she was working with us, Billy Taylor was still with us, the late, great Dr. Billy Taylor. And we had decided that NEA was giving out grants to do programming with jazz masters. So we came up with this idea to do something called Tailor Made. And Tailor Made is something that came out of Billy. And one of the things that I said I really wanted to do, I said, I want to get 3 baby grands on one stage. And I know 2 of the artists that I want. Not sure who the third is. And then and they were all males, young in their 20s at the time. And I said, but we need a strong female that I would like to come who is of maybe a generation above them. So not at Billy's level, but in between Billy and them. So John Baptiste was one of the ones that I wanted.
Love him.
Love him.
Love him.
Right? Because I had first met John. He had been just come up from New Orleans right after Katrina. And he had been at the Juilliard School all of a week. And I got a phone call from a friend of mine who said, listen, we're doing this fundraiser. I want Jazzmobile to give us some talent. We don't have a lot of money. I said, okay, how much do you have? She told me. I said, okay, fine. What I'll do is I'll get you a solo artist. And another friend of mine knew John. She said, Robin, call John.
Wow.
And so we did that. So John was one of the pianists, and the other one was a Billy Taylor protege named Christian Sands.
Oh, absolutely.
Piano player.
Right? A phenomenal piano player. And then I think the third piano player, I think it came from Sheila, and it was Gerald Clayton of the Clayton Brothers family, right?
Yes.
So he was the third one. And then, we had these 3 Steinways on the stage, and then we had to do the way the program started, there was an interview with the 3 of them, and the interview was led by the late, great Jerry Allen.
Oh, wow.
Magic.
Wow, that's magic.
Magic.
Total magic.
And Billy Taylor sat in the audience, front row, not to be maudlin or anything, but that was on December 14th, I believe, and he died 2 weeks later. And that was his last live performance, and he was in heaven.
Oh, my God.
He was in it. We have these great photographs.
Yes.
He was just, he knew the next generation. He said, y'all got this, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not worried about that. I'm going to be all right. So that's the kind of programming that I never would have been able to do if there wasn't Linda Walton, I'm telling you, that's just one of them. And I could go on and on. So, like she said, we have these great ideas. Then it's like, okay, well, we got to get them executed, you know? So, so
But what was also good, and one of the things is that as arts organizations, there are pockets of, we have to fundraise, but there are pockets of money that are available. So sometimes you have to think creatively and say, well, who could fund this?
Right.
Or this is someone that we have not gone after. So with the NEA Jazz Master specifically, I think we got two. And the first one we did was we decided to do something called Masters Behind the Music.
Right.
Because the idea was you could take any jazz master, anyone on their roster, and create programming around it, whatever it may be. And we said, we're going to do something different. We're going to do the Masters Behind the Music. So it was an educator, Billy Taylor, a journalist, writer, Nat Hentoff. And then a presenter, George Wein.
Oh my God!
Okay.
And I believe we were here in
We were
campus
with
of City College.
Yep.
So back up. When was this?
This was in 2008. I'm going to say 2010 or 11. 11.
Wow.
11.
Wow.
Yeah, 2011.
Incredible
Yeah.
programming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we did something with the Jazz Studies Department here with Joe Wilder, Jimmy Heath, and Frank West.
Frank West.
With the Jazz Studies Department. So it was this multi-tiered. We always think multi-tiered. You know, what are the elements that makes this a complete and whole project?
Gotcha.
So those were the kinds of things, because again, as a presenter or an arts organization, there is what is the support system?
Exactly.
And so because we have these ideals and because of Jazzmobile's name recognition, we were able to tap into those resources from the NEA and others. So we're very pleased to.
Just so you know, Vosa Rivers is listening. He did weigh in. I sent him a little text to where I said, "Are you listening?" And said, so Vosa, yes.
Hey, Vosa.
As you hear, your proteges, the people that you work and who love and adore you, yes, they're doing proud.
No doubt about it.
But when you mentioned Vosa, it's another thing that has helped Jazzmobile to grow the way we've grown is forming these collaborations, right?
Yes.
So you talk about, the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce with Lord Williams and his support. You talk about Harlem Week. You talk about New Heritage Theater. You talk about Impact. And the list goes on. And we have, and over the years, Jazzmobile has partnered not only with these Harlem-based organizations, but we've done programming with the Metropolitan Museum of Art, with the Children's Museum of Brooklyn, the Children's Museum of Manhattan.
Wow.
And we mentioned BAM and 651 earlier. So those are the kinds of partnerships that have enabled Jazzmobile to do what we do. And you mentioned earlier, too, Great Jazz on the Great Hill.
Oh, yes.
Which is a personal favorite of mine. Those of you who have ever been to the Jackie Robinson Afternoon of Jazz concert, it's the closest you're going to get to that. It's not quite the same.
Not quite the same,
It's not quite the same. I'll own it. Because Rachel's not there walking around saying hi to everybody. But it's the closest you're going to get. And again, that came out of a partnership.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm on the board of directors of the Women's Committee of the Central Park Conservancy. And it was through the relationships I had there that I said, what, I would love to do this in Central Park. Now, in all fairness, again, giving credit where credit is due, Johnny Gary, when they did the first tribute in Central Park to Charlie Parker, this was a precursor to the Charlie Parker Festival that we know today, right? And then, so that was something that he did, and then I came back in and said, let's bring it back. And there's a wonderful guy at the time who was Assistant Vice President of Education for the Central Park Conservancy named John Reddick.
No, get out of here.
Yes.
John Reddick was there?
John Reddick was there. And I said,
Historian
hey,
John Reddick.
Right?
Yes.
I said, hey, John, I'd like to bring this back, Great Jazz on the Great Hill. And he said, give me a minute. And he said, what if, and then he came back to me with this concept, said, out of the education department, they just got this grant, they renovated this area called the Glade, and they're looking for family programming.
Wow.
You guys are family programming. Because even, you get from the youngest to the oldest coming up into the parks, wherever it is. So, and that was probably 15, 16 years ago. And again, so we've been there ever since. But again, it's all about those relationships and collaborating, people who share your vision.
Yep. And I know I'm jumping in, but please, adding on to partnerships, one of our greatest and strongest one of many. When we did the Harlem Jazz Shrines.
Oh,
with
yes.
the Apollo, Harlem Stage.
Oh yeah, that was great. That was great.
And,
Yes.
Yes.
And Jazzmobile, and then with
And
Columbia.
Columbia University.
Columbia,
Right,
wow.
Exactly. And that was, again, this whole ideal of, Harlem being a mecca for jazz, or known as a mecca for jazz. And obviously a lot of the jazz clubs were closing. So the idea was to sort of either recreate or re-envision or have programming in some of those jazz spaces. And one of the things that we did, and I'll tell you, this is the last story I'm going to tell.
No, it's not.
One of the ideas that we had was, how much time you got? Was to recreate, I said, we should recreate Small's Paradise.
Right. That
Up
was
in what used to be the hip hop theater
Culture
center.
Center.
Yeah.
Hip-hop
Okay,
Culture
when they had
Yeah.
left. So we
No.
went in there.
You
that
guys
big empty
did some.
space. Oh yeah, for
Remember this?
2 or 3 years in a row.
Yeah,
Wow.
Well, yeah, but
But that
it
was-
was talk about one of the most rigorous programs, because it was a raw space.
Yes,
Right.
that's
That's all I
right.
need
That's
to
right.
know.
Raw
A
space.
raw
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
So we went in there. We're sweeping up, dusting. We're we had to we called on friends and family to come in. And
Got to give a shout out to Chink if you're
to
listening.
Chink, I tell you, Chink and Dale were my
Dale,
lifesavers.
yes,
I tell
yes.
you, and my ex-husband, he was like,
Yeah.
he called our lighting guy. But then we were still hanging drapes. We went to the materials for the arts and got boats and boats of fabric. And so we were
Long
going to
Island
the-
City.
Oh
Yeah,
my
to the
God! So,
Cultural
so we're there,
Affairs.
and the doors were supposed to open at 6:30, and we're still there laying tablecloths. And I went upstairs to change to the New York Sports Club, and I said, either I'll have a show when we come down, or I won't, because I wasn't sure. All of a sudden, candles were lit, and we
It was
had blown up
magic.
signs that sort of recreated
Wow,
the
God.
front.
So you had the ambiance.
Yeah, the
right?
ambiance. But I tell you, to have that kind of vision,
Yes.
and to be able to execute it
Right.
was phenomenal. So that is something that certainly Robin and I both agree on in terms of, one, the projects and partnerships, and two, and just whatever we can do to advance this music, which is
yeah.
ours, as we say, our
Exactly.
America's classical music, jazz.
That's right.
Wow.
And during that same series, my favorite one, and every year the three partners would choose which clubs or which shrines they wanted. I said, Jazzmobile will always do every year Minton's
Minton's.
Playhouse. We will own Minton's Playhouse. So we did the last performance, public performance of real jazz in Minton's Playhouse before it was sold and renovated, et cetera, et cetera. But so sort of go full circle, Jazzmobile is now looking to start doing a residency in clubs, because we kind of did a teaser of it when we went through the Harlem Jazz Shrine Festival. And my favorite jazz club is one of the ones that we are seriously looking at and trying to see if we can make something happen there, which would be very exciting for, I think, everybody. And again, my dad had played there, so that's why I think I was personally drawn to it. But the history of that space. And I think, and I will also say, what the club looks like today is absolutely magnificent.
Yes.
I think, Dick Parsons and his team, Harlem Jazz Enterprises, they've done a great job. And I know they have a new manager in there who's working to bring it back. And they also, like all of us, every so often you got to hit the pause button, reinvent yourself, and come back out.
Gotcha.
And I think to their
Gotcha.
credit, that's what they're doing. And it looks to me like they're definitely on the right path.
Okay.
Definitely on the right
Big
path.
ups then,
Yes.
Mr. Parsons, if you're listening. Okay. So good selection in terms of, I forget what the name of the entity is. I know Raphael.
Yes.
But I forget what his organization is called. But they are managing and operating the
That
space
and,
now.
and Cecil's.
And
Cecil's,
exactly.
right. And he has a steakhouse on, I think it's 3rd Avenue,
Yeah.
east side of 3rd Avenue,
Right.
116th Street, thereabouts.
Yeah.
And then so he's brought that sort of menu concept with some
Well,
different
remember,
twist to it,
hey,
to Cecil's.
Raphael, Argentinian, and there's one thing that Argentinians know.
They know their
Beef.
Steak. That's right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So true.
So I also see that Peggy, the chair of the Classical Theater of Harlem,
Yeah,
is
chair of the
also
board.
listening. So we'll give her a little shout out there.
Hi, Peggy.
That's right.
Talk to you soon.
Yes, indeed.
Well,
so you know what? I just wanted to jump in here at Night Watchman because I'm just curious. So and because now we're going to have our lightning round, right? Because we certainly know that jazz is America's classical music.
Yes.
The future of jazz. A couple of
Yes.
words.
It's,
Is it looking good?
Yeah. Okay. The future of jazz is looking terrific, and I think that music as jazz music is always modern.
Okay.
If for no other reason than the people playing it. Because Duke is no longer playing it, if
That's
you
true.
hadn't noticed. Okay?
I know a few young people playing it, and I'm here to promise you.
We're all right.
And I can name a whole bunch of names. I'm just going to name my nephew, Isaiah Thompson.
Okay.
Piano player.
Yeah.
Who was
Yeah.
bad, little young. What is he now? 20 or something like. You know, with a bunch of friends. He's at Juilliard now.
Very nice.
He's staying for. He would be graduating. He is graduating, but he's staying to get his master's.
good
But
for
I'm just mentioning him. I don't want to start
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it's a few. But from the Jazz House Kids Christian's.
Christian
School
McBride
Christian
School.
McBride School in Montclair, New Jersey. I know a bunch of them, and that's all I can say. You said it right because of who's doing it. They are some serious young folks, and they're not even into all the illicit things like we like the older cats would. They are just focused about the art of it. They consider it the.
That's correct.
Exactly.
As opposed to when I was coming up, I mean, there was no jazz in the schools
Right, exactly.
at all. You know,
There
we had to
wasn't.
figure that out. We went and studied classical and figured out the rest on our own.
Exactly.
You know, but they are
Play
in
an
school
album or walk into a club and hope they call you
in
up.
hope. That's right. But
So-
no, it's in good hands. It's in excellent hands. I promise you.
Also, just to remind our listeners that next Monday night, keep the music playing. Jazzmobile benefit with 37 stellar musicians.
37. And you know what? We will give the listening audience a pass if you go there to 1 Corinthians on
Okay.
next Monday. Okay?
When we say
Don't-
pass means like you have an excuse not to.
That's right. Listen to
But
so
But it is a
much.
fundraiser, so
Correct.
no,
That's right.
you need to go
Thank
to
you for that.
Eventbrite.
Yes.
And if it's
Search for
enticing-
Jazzmobile and get your tickets because you're not going to see a show like this again. You're
not
just
at all.
not.
You're not.
You
Not
know,
with these musicians.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
you know, and we have to catch them while we're here. So 1 Corinthians next Monday night.
6:30.
Yes, and
6:30.
we want to thank Robin Bell Stevens, Nat Adderley Jr., and Linda Walton for a tremendous show.
Thank you.
Shared so much, and we also just want to give you all credit for keeping the torch alive, not only preserving the legacy, but keeping it going forward with such excellence in execution and passion.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
that.
Thank you. And get ready next for Harlem Dance Party.
And if you don't make it out there, tune in next Monday at 7, Soul Lounge Primetime here on WHCR.
The voice of Harlem.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.